Hello, fellow nerds, and welcome to our nerdiest thing. Today we are live with a very special guest, author Suzie Webster. Suzie is a storyteller with a passion for both readers and authors, specifically of the romance genre. She is the author of the Low Country Liasons romance series and the For Me romance duet, and creator of Lust in the Low Country, a romance book convention held in Charleston, South Carolina. She is a wife and mother and jack of all trades, living in Charleston with her family and dog. She loves to explore, find amazing food, and put her daydreams down on paper. Welcome to the podcast, Suzie.
Thank you.
All the things you just said makes me want to be best friends with Suzie.
Oh, that's so nice.
Food, low country, romance books. Let's go.
If I say so myself, I'm fun.
I think so.
You can definitely say that yourself. That's nice.
So I wanted to be an author when I was in high school. I used to actually, sorry to all my teachers that are, anybody who might be listening is finding this out now, but I used to write dirty stories when I was in high school, and they would get Xeroxed, as we called it back in the 80s, and passed around. I didn't sign it. My name wasn't anywhere because they were really dirty. And yeah, so they were really popular. So I always loved writing and entertaining people, and I just decided I wanted to make money more, and so I kind of fell into careers in real estate and home decorating and a million different things until I finally, after 10 years of doing events, I decided that I needed a break, and my husband's like, well, what do you want to do? Do what you want. And I said, you know what? I want to write a book. I said, I've always wanted to write a romance novel. I want to write a book. And I had recently started reading romance again. I hadn't read it in a long time. I was kind of got married, and I would read books that my husband would read, and I was reading, Jack Reacher and thrillers and all those kinds of things. And so I went back into romance and discovered indie authors, and it was like a whole new world to me. I'm like, wow, first of all, like the romance books are so much better than I remember them being. Nothing against Harlequin or Barbara Cartland, but come on. And so I was super impressed, and I did about a year's worth of research just looking into getting a literary agent. Like, what do I do? How do I do this? And ultimately, I decided to just go forth and start writing. And at the end of the day, I decided I wanted to kind of go down the self-publishing route. I felt like I had the marketing background. I could promote myself. I loved doing events, so I was excited to go to events, and I just sat down and started writing. I wrote kind of like an outline of a series I wanted to do set in Charleston, and wrote down, kind of created the characters in advance for all the books, and then I just started banging it out, and it was super fun. I mean, it was a lot easier than I anticipated. Of course, I still look back at my first book, Revival on King Street, and I want to rewrite it. I know everybody says that, but I'm like, gosh, my dialogue was so bad. But people still love that book. Some of my fans who've read all my books, that's still their favorite. So they don't. I guess they're forgiving my still dialogue that I see. So yeah, I published my first book in 2018, and kind of immediately started. I got a publicist. I started going to find as many events as I could to go to, and then I hit a bit of a wall. I was frustrated as a new author that there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me to meet readers. Publicist and I did a good job of hooking me up for book signings, and Noble was surprisingly great here in Charleston and did book signing, and so that was fun. But I couldn't find any like larger book signings that I could really be a part of that were romance specific. And that's kind of to coming up with the idea of, wow, 10 years of being an event planner in Charleston. It's such a great city. Everybody loves to read romance. I'll just do my own, romance festival here, and, do something that really can focus on the newer authors and bring in the emerging authors and give them some, tools to grow their business and be, eventually be best-selling authors. So that's kind of how I conceived Lust in the Low Country in, 2019.
Suzie, do you mind me asking, because I always love to ask authors that are self-published, do you have any advice to newer authors or any mistakes that you made that you can be like, don't do this if you're trying to self-publish?
I think one thing that I did do that I'm glad I did is that I did use a small publishing company who I paid. I mean, I paid them to kind of take me through the whole process. And I would advise, I think that's a great road to go down unless you have like a specific mentor that can really help you with that. And I've actually helped quite a few authors walk through that process that I hired someone to do for me. But it was kind of great. I mean, they were good. I mean, they weren't the greatest, but I ended up getting my editor that way, that I just kind of hired away from, hired her on the side, my book designer, things like that. So I kind of utilized that the first time for the first book and then learned what they did and did it myself after that. So, I mean, I think it really helps to kind of know that process and also just not to get discouraged. I mean, frankly, for me, I could probably be a much more successful author if I wasn't doing a book event. It's growing every year.
But you're making sure other authors are successful, which I love.
I am. I mean, I don't focus on my marketing. I don't work on doing ARC teams. I don't do all the things that you really, if you want to be a full-time successful author, you really have to do. And I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time right now. But I want to. I mean, I want to get my books out there more. And I've kind of had a little bit of an epiphany about that probably in this last quarter, is that I just want to get back to writing. I just finished my first book of 2023. So I am kicking myself. And I've already started another one. So it's just kind of one of those things where just the focus, it's very difficult for, a Pisces and someone who's a LED to have so many balls in the air. It's really hard for me to do more than one thing at a time, so I have to really schedule myself. Like today is a lit day, writing day sort of thing. But I think authors, you just can't get discouraged. I mean, it takes a long time. I mean, I had a really nice conversation with Kate Stewart, who's a really successful author, and she's published like 17 or 8. I can't even remember how many books, but she told me more than 17, because she said she did not really start making money and being successful until her 17th book.
Right.
So, it's hard. Like, you publish a book and you're like, okay, like, where is everybody? Like, why aren't they all buying my book? It takes a long time to kind of build that fan base, and you just have to keep kind of plugging away at it and just be passionate about it. If you love what you're doing, keep doing it. If you need to make as a writer, have another full-time job.
Right.
That's what I would say.
Well, Emily Rath, she just quit her day job. And I mean, she said she was working 80 hours a week, right? And now she finally gets to quit. And she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do with all this time.
She's like, I don't know how I did it. Like, now I should have all this time, but I don't. But,
right.
It just kind of fills itself in. And yeah, I mean, I do Low Country. I have a company that I own also that pays my bills, that I also run, and my daughter works for me. So, I mean, I have 3 jobs. So it's really hard the marketing piece always falls off, because I'd much rather be writing than marketing. And I have to market lit. So, but thank girls, they help a lot. Yay, hype girls. Sorry. Gotta give them a shout out.
Woo, hype girls.
That's where we come in too.
And you guys. And the nerdy girls, as I call you guys. Sorry.
That's us.
That's what I call
Well, I wanted to ask a little bit more about your writing. So on your website, I think it says that for you, Charleston is a very enticing character. And obviously that's where you live, right? So it's a place that you love. But I was curious to hear what you really love about Charleston to include it and think of it as an extra character in your books.
Honestly, I just finished the 5th book in my Low Country series, and I thought I'm done with that series after my 4th one. And then I've also written 2 novellas. I thought I was done, but it's just such like a comfort place for me to write in my city. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area in Northern Virginia. So we moved to Charleston in 2006. I'll tell you, I spent 9 months with younger children and my husband traveling all over America in a fifth wheel. And I went to I visited almost every state in the United States. And when we got home, I was like, there's just no place like Charleston. I mean, we were everywhere. And every place has its charm and the people are all different, but there's just something about the South and this area that just has always, from the day I moved here, I know it's home. I'm like, we're never living anywhere else, no doubt.
Well, Suzie, tell us a little bit about your series. So you've got the Liasons series and then For Me. Will you tell us a little bit about kind of the overarching stories of those?
Yes, Low Country Liasons is kind of very, I mean, I hate to say it's very formulaic, but it's more of a traditional romance series where you have a different couple for each book. They're all a big group of friends. You can read them and you can certainly gather the things that I'm into, like food and decorating and architecture and homes and that sort of thing, because there's always a lot of description about like where the people live and, you know, their careers and what they do and what they're building, you know, out in the city of Charleston. That's completely unrealistic and would probably never happen, but it still sounds really good. People are like, is that inn in downtown Charleston real? And I'm like, no, but there are many inns that are real that are similar. So that particular one is not. But most of the restaurants are real. I mean, unless I'm writing something that's kind of not flattering, I will use the real names of the restaurants.
Oh, that's fun. I love that.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can definitely get some food wrecks. And in fact, I've had like release parties at some of the restaurants that are mentioned. Like I had a big scene in my second book, Seduction on Sullivan's, at Nico Restaurant. It's one of the bigger restaurants here. The chef Nico Romo is probably our biggest celebrity chef of the moment, and he owns 3 restaurants. And he had let me have my book release party in Nico Restaurant. We had it in the little patio. We had like a champagne toast, and I did a reading, which is always so embarrassing because I usually try to be somewhat sexy so that I can blush and everybody can laugh. And then he recreated the meal that I talked about in the book. He recreated it and we had a dinner. We had like probably 25, 30 people who stayed and had the dinner with us, and it was really cool. So that was like really fun. So that's a nice thing about being a local and having the years of event, you know, experience, that I can do some kind of fun. I can do some really fun release parties, or not your typical, you know, really
utilize those connections.
So that's Low Country Liasons, a 3 chili pepper spice in those maybe, and they get a little spicier as you go along. The one I just finished is a male romance, real spicy. I just love writing.
I love MM. I don't know why it does it for me, but my gosh, I know.
It seems weird. Some of my friends don't get it. I'm like, girls, you just don't know.
I got into it when I was reading J.R. Ward's books, because she's got these 2 best friends that like fall in love over, and it takes like 8 books or something. Right. And so then by the time you're so invested, you're like, oh my God, please just do it. Just do it already. We're ready. And I think ever since then, I've just kind of be obsessed with it.
Yeah, they're so good. So that one I just finished. That one is going to be pretty spicy. And then my For Me series is definitely a bit of a departure. It's a little darker. There's more angst. It's a love triangle duet. Goes over a 10-year span. One of the characters owns a sex club, so you get lots of fun sex club scenes in there. I've had people ask me if that's real as well, or if I've been to I have been to sex clubs, but not that one.
I wanted to ask a little bit more about Lust in the Low Country. What we're really looking forward to, at least for me, is the workshops that you have for authors. The focus on authors helping other authors grow like in their craft and give pointers. That to me is what makes Lust in the Low Country stand out.
That and the pirate party, for the record, which I'm so excited about.
My winch costume came in today.
Ooh, I can't wait.
I'm so excited.
I think that for me, the author to author stuff was something I have always been really big on education. When I used to do a big event called the Carolina Green Fair, and it was in downtown Charleston, and it was very much education focused, and it was focused on kind of how the average person doing what they can do to be more green and help the environment. And it was very kind of dumb sense, but it was trying to make being green and environmentally conscious, user friendly, if you will, and achievable for every family. And that was kind of my thing. So we would bring in educators, and we would bring in even chefs and things like that, and do like sustainable seafood demonstrations. And it was just really, really fun to have that kind of component. So I wanted to find a way to do that here with the authors. And I mean, as you said earlier, when you're starting out, you just don't really know what you're doing. And things are constantly changing also in the world of publishing, and especially indie and self-publishing. So to be able to have something every year where you can bring in this is what, look at Book Talk. I mean, Book Talk wasn't even a thing really last year. So kind of bringing in what's happening and helping authors to try, if they're interested in it, and pivot and add these kind of tools to their toolbox to help their books be successful. And to hear it from other authors who actually have had the success and are doing it, and what their process is for writing, but also what they're doing with marketing. And I've been to some workshops at other events, and I was frustrated because I'm like, I don't want to know about publishing. I don't want to know about editing, some of these things. I want to know about marketing, and I want to know what do I do on Instagram? What am I doing? So I wanted that to be kind of something, because most authors, the marketing piece is the most challenging. It's like, we just want to freaking write books, and a lot of people who are writers, not myself, but many are very introverted. So the idea of having to do a TikTok video is daunting. It's daunting for me, and I'm not an introvert.
Well, before we go into the nerdy and dirty speed round, is there anything else you want our listeners to know about Lit?
One of the biggest reasons I originally started writing is because I wanted to have a platform where as I was going into my later 40s, I was 49 when I published my first book. So I have always been very kind of open about my sexuality, and just always have kind of embraced that, even through my 30s when my kids were younger. It's not like I'm out there at the bus stop hoeing it up, but I just have always been very comfortable in that way. And as I got older and my kids grew up, and a lot of my friends were just kind of lost, and I'm like, guys, now's the time, man. Your kids are gone. Get wild and crazy. Reconnect with your husband. Find the lust that you had when you were in your 20s. So, that was a big kind of passion of mine. And I've spoken at women's conferences and things like that about sex, and, finding sex in your 40s and 50s, and rediscovering that spark in your marriage and that sort of thing. And so originally wanted to write romance because I wanted to kind of widen my audience of women and be able to talk about that sort of thing, and so for me, it's been such an exciting thing to watch over these years as more and more women are, if you belong to any of these groups on Facebook, like Smuthood and some of these, and just the stuff that women are telling, the stories they're telling, and the things they're saying, and the things they're doing, I'm like, go, live your best. That was kind of a big impetus to start writing in the first place, romance in particular, because I just felt like there is just a whole lot of women out there that are just kind of missing the boat, that your life is not over when your kids leave, guys. It's just beginning. This is the best time. And my kids know I feel that way. I love them, and we party together. We all party together as a family. But they know, this is mom and dad's. This is our era now. These are my Vegas years, guys.
That's
my
right.
Disney World years behind. Vegas years ahead.
You know what, though? I love to drink around the world at Disney. Don't knock it till you tried it.
Heck yeah, man.
Right?
Heck yeah. I took my kids in 2019. We went to Disney. That's what they wanted. I said, we're going to have one last big family hurrah. I'm treating. I'll take you to Hawaii. Where do you guys want to go? We've been to Disney a dozen times, for God's sake. They wanted to go to Disney as adults. They all wanted to go. They wanted to drink at Epcot.
A different experience.
Disney with no
Yeah,
kids.
totally different.
Yes, it is.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
I'm good not to go again until I have grandkids. But, I'll stick to Vegas for now. But, yeah, that was really funny to me that they all wanted to go to Disney World.
Well, let's get into our nerdy and dirty speed round. And after that, Mindy's going to ask you 3 tough questions and then 4 random questions, just so you can get ready for that. So our nerdy and dirty speed round, we want you to answer the prompts. First thing that pops into your head, okay? Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Last song you listened to.
Flashdance, What a Feeling, when I was working out this morning.
Nice. What fictional character do you have a crush on?
I will always have a crush on Jamie Fraser.
I was thinking, I think I was like manifesting to you because I was thinking, how would I have Jamie Fraser 100%? What book series do you always recommend, Suzie?
There's 2 that I really, really love and I always recommend. One is the Jack and Jill series by Julie Ann, which I also made my husband read and he liked it a lot. He doesn't typically love romance. The other one is Sierra Simone's new Camelot series, like American Queen and all those. Fantastic. And so spicy. So good.
Okay, and then what book character would you get nerdy and dirty with?
Well, Jamie Fraser. Jamie Fraser. And also Bennett from Sea of Ruin. I'm definitely going full-on bisexual for her.
Do you say that Outlander is the TV show that everyone should watch?
I would say Schitt's Creek is a TV show everyone should watch. I loved the first 3 seasons of Outlander, and I've kind of fallen off the last 2. It just started getting a little dark for me. But, man, I love the first 3. I love the first season like 3 times.
I mean, I think it's just because they were naked all the time.
Oh, so good. And I mean, Sam Heughan was young and hot. I mean, Sam, you're still awesome. Don't get me wrong. I'd take you any day of the week.
Right.
So pure.
Yeah. Get in line, Suzie. Okay. What's a food you refuse to eat?
I know. Cilantro. And it's really, the struggle is real because I love Mexican food, Thai food. I love Indian food. And I'm always cilantro out of every freaking thing.
What paranormal power would you want to have?
So I used to have a lot of flyings. I haven't had one in a long time, but like I always flew the same way. I'm not even going to demonstrate it for you because it's too embarrassing, but I really wish I could fly. I'd love to fly.
What's your favorite weekend activity?
But not on an airplane. Definitely, I do a lot of reading on the weekends, and I love to read in my bath in particular. I'm a bath girl.
Ooh, yeah. Do you prefer smut or plot?
Definitely plot. I love smut. But if it's a lot of smut and no plot, I'll do not finish it in a second.
Now, I know that you were writing some filth in your high school years, so you can't answer with those books. But what's your favorite childhood book?
I would say Charlotte's Web was probably the one that stayed the most. But I also really love Little Women and the Little House on the Prairie books. I read over and over again.
I loved Little House on the Prairie.
But Charlotte's Web I probably read 10 times. I loved it so much.
And what are you currently reading, or what's the last book you finished?
Hucking Wild.
Oh,
Hucking Wild I just finished.
So good.
So good. I just downloaded to start tonight Jill Brashear's book called Riley's Love Connection by Jill Brashear. Yeah, she's one of our authors. So I'm trying to read our authors. I've read all of our marquee authors, and I've read several of the others. But I'm trying to make my way through all of our authors. But it's kind of hard. We have 70.
Oh, right. Yeah. And you know, when the last book festival we did, we divided up the list because we couldn't get through them all, right? And we still didn't get through them all. There's too many good books out there.
I used to have a lot more time to read, but I think in 2020 I read like 250 books, and I'm not even going to be close to that this year.
Well, in your defense, that was the pandemic year too. We didn't really have much else to do.
There was no events, nothing happening. Yeah, right. It was rough.
And final speed round question: cake or pie?
I would say cake 11 months out of the year, and pie when I'm in Maine. because Maine has the best pies.
Well, now we're going to move into 3 tough questions, and these are writing related. Okay. So, and maybe they're not tough to you, but a lot of authors think they're tough. So what is a scene in one of your books that you edited out, but that you really, really, really wish you could have kept in?
Sometimes I might edit out some dirty stuff, but then I read other people's books and I'm like, why did I edit mine? I'm just so terrified. I'm so terrified. Like my mother-in-law is going to read some of these newer books. I'm like, don't read it.
I read a trigger warning the other day and all it said was, Mom and Dad, if you've opened to this page, stop reading for the love of God.
That is an amazing trigger warning. That is amazing.
That is great. Well, what is a specific character trait, like a super specific detail about one of your characters that maybe doesn't like change the story at all, but just makes you really, really love that character?
I have a book that I've just started writing. This is the first female character that I've been super in love with and really wrote this last book. She was a side character in my new book that's coming out. And I was writing this book. I'm like, this girl have a book. Like we're going to be keep going. We're just going to go with this. Her name's Holly. It's a stupid thing, but she has a bet with her niece, her 5-year-old niece, that she won't cuss for a year. And so
I would lose in 1 minute.
In the book, she has to substitute these words for cuss words. And as a writer, it's been so challenging to come up with these creative terms for all the words that we all love to say. So it's just been really hilarious. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've Googled slang for penis and vagina and all these things. So I've just really enjoyed doing that. And she's like a really kind of a quirky girl, and I've just enjoyed writing that kind of a character. She's unlike any character I've ever written.
I love that because I've heard other authors say that they just had characters that beg to be written more about. It's like your characters drive it. The last of the 3 tough questions is, what is a writing ritual that you have maybe that may be different from other authors?
I literally have to have complete and utter silence, like no distractions, because I just get immersed in what I'm writing. And if I hear any noises or even hear my husband talking on the phone in the other room, it pulls me out of that place and it messes me up. And so I just have to write in silence. Like sometimes I have a camper outside of my house, and sometimes I'll go in my camper to write so that I'm alone. And I hear stories about people like writing on their phones, and I'm like, how do you do that?
Susie, Kristen Granada, who is one of the lit authors, was telling us that she writes on her phone in carpool line, like for her kids. She's like, I have to find the time to do it.
She's
so
amazing.
Yeah,
she's amazing. She's all. Yeah. I can't wait to meet her. She's definitely in my top 5 authors I'm excited to meet for sure.
I think us too.
Well, moving on to some less serious questions. I don't know. Maybe they could be serious questions. These are 4 random questions, and they are very, very random. So you've already said you're a Pisces. So tell us how you relate to the tendencies of being a Pisces. What is it about you that makes you so very Pisces?
I am such a Pisces. My husband is also a Pisces. That's why we are 2 fish. If you see my business stuff or get an invoice from me, it says 2 fish. I definitely am a very positive person. I just love people. I love people. I love all the people. I love to watch people. I got my head in the clouds. I'm definitely that girl, and everything is always going to be all right.
Well, I think I might know the answer to this question, but is there a scene in a book or in any kind of movie or TV series that makes you blush?
I will tell you a writer that often makes me blush when I read her books, and I still love them, and that is Nyla Kay. Nyla, I'm getting you this year, girl. I'm trying. Every year I try to get her. She's coming. Yeah, and I'm not a huge fan of the people who are related having relationships in books. Yeah, I did read Double Edged by Nyla Kay because she's just such a great writer, and I just think I was like, if anybody could sell me on this, she didn't sell me on it, but I thought she did a fantastic job trying.
You came close.
Still good. Still good. Still good. Still hot. But her books are over. If you like spicy, Kelly's books are spicy, but Nyla's books are, I don't even know. They're on another planet.
See, I would have thought you wouldn't blush over anything. So she must be really dirty.
There's very little. There's very little.
Well, Charleston is a city that's like rich with history. And I know when I went there, we went on a ghost tour, which was super fun. Do you, have you ever seen a ghost, or do you have any kind of paranormal experiences?
I don't recall that I've ever seen a ghost. I've definitely had some very real feeling dreams that I would wake up from and be visited by family members that are not here that felt really real. Like when I woke up, I'm like, wow, okay. Like I didn't even know what you looked like at that age, and yet I knew it was you. You were that person.
Wow.
So
that's almost scarier.
Maybe they come to visit me while I'm sleeping, I guess.
I like that idea, but it is almost scarier, like somebody you know rather than somebody you know.
My son is definitely connected to the other world because he had a ghost follow him around for a couple of houses that we lived in. Same ghost.
Oh, wow.
What kind of experiences did he have, Suzie?
From the time he was young until he was probably in his 20s. I don't know if that ghost is still around, but it was a child ghost. Yeah. He's the one. He goes on all the ghost tours. He does all that stuff. He's very, very in touch. And also Robin, who helps us with Lit, and she'll be there. She's a ghost person. She sees all the ghosts.
We're going to have to reach out to her and ask her which ghost tour to go on.
Yeah.
She's going on the ghost tour with Molly Doyle. She's our representative on that tour.
All right, and finally, this is super important. I always like to hear what authors have to say about this because I don't have a plan for this. But what is your zombie apocalypse plan?
Gosh, my next door neighbor has all the guns. So I always tell Drew, I'm like, if the zombie apocalypse is happening, we're going next door to Doug's because he'll protect us.
Suzie, you already told us you have written 2 books in 2023. So what are the titles of those and when are those coming out?
Well, so I've written one in 2023, and that is called Palmetto Passion. And that's about a character that's in all the other books. His name is Chase, and he's like the best friend. He's the gay best friend. And so he finally gets his happily ever after. He's a really awesome character. I had a lot of people ask me to write his story. And I actually wrote a short story about him that's published in the Low Country Writers Association did an anthology last year. And I wrote a short story about Chase. And one of my friends who's read all my books was like, Suzie, that's your best character. You have to write a story about that guy. So I wrote that for my friend Steve. But, and then I just started writing the next book in Low Country Liasons, which is going to be about Chase's love interest, his best friend Holly.
Oh, fun.
The Chase book is actually coming out on September 26th.
Oh, great. Okay. So very soon.
Be out in time for Lit. Hopefully I don't have to be a regular person and buy my books at full price to sell at the event. But I might. Chances are good. And then the other one I'm hoping to get out. I mean, man, I'd love to get it out by like Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah.
Around February.
That would be great.
And then besides Lit, because we know that you are the creator, and remind me what your title is because it's funny.
I'm the Chief Fun Officer.
Chief Fun Officer.
I'm the CFO.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So
CFO.
besides
I'm the CFO of my family too.
Okay, so besides double CFO and being a signing author at that event, are you going to any other events as an author in the next year?
Probably won't. I've thought about it. There are a lot more to choose from. I started Lit. I think that's great news. And I think there's a lot more opportunities for newer authors. I just think it's going to be really difficult for me to be doing other events, also planning this event. So it's going to be tough.
Right.
But I would like to. I mean, I would love to go. I would love to attend some events. I was supposed to be a volunteer at a Polycon during COVID and they canceled, so I couldn't do that. But yeah. So probably not, unless something comes across that just I can't resist.
Right.
And I travel a ton as it is. I travel for pleasure. That is my guilty pleasure for sure.
Oh, same here. So where do you prefer that your readers purchase your books? Do you like them to buy from your website, straight off Amazon? What's the best place for you?
I mean, I love to send somebody a signed copy. I feel like that is so special when someone asks you for that. I mean, of course, it's a little bit more work, but I'm excited to talk with Lulu Books. Shout out to them at Lit because they do print on demand. So there's a couple of things that I'm going to be learning about at Lit that I'm hoping to implement for my business next year, and that is definitely one. Subscriptions services for authors is another that I'm super curious about. I have a pretty interactive fan base, so just trying to diversify my income as an author. Right. So I'm not relying on Amazon is really a good thing. But I mean, I'm not going to be one to complain about Amazon because, I still make the most fun than anything else.
So the way we always end our podcast every week is we talk about our nerdiest thing of the week. It can be something you did. It can be something you read. It can be something you watched. So we're curious to know what your nerdiest thing of the week is.
My nerdiest thing that I've done this week? I was on a flight home from Nashville, and I left my Kindle on the plane, and I realized it when I got on the connecting flight.
Oh no.
And I immediately bought another Kindle within 2 minutes, realizing that my Kindle was gone forever. I got my new Kindle today, so I'm so excited to have my new Kindle, but man, my husband was not happy with me. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm buying another Kindle right now. I am not waiting for Christmas.
I left my Kindle under the seat of a rental car in April when I was in Tulsa, Oklahoma for work, and called the rental company, and I was like, you're going to have to ship it to me like tomorrow. And they didn't charge me. They were super sweet. I was like, I will pay you to overnight it. Get me my stuff. I have to have it. They were really kind.
I've left Kindles in many places, and I've paid to have them shipped to me, but I knew that I wasn't probably getting it from Delta. I figured
probably not.
Probably not.
Well, thank you so much. We'll see you soon, and have a great night.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye, Suzie.
Bye.
Bye.